You're listening to Secrets for Scaling, a Gecko Board podcast that explores the growth secrets of successful founders and CEOs. If you've been enjoying Secrets for Scaling, we ask that you head on over to iTunes to give us a rating or review. That way, people just like you will also discover the founder stories that we've been sharing. Thank you so much for tuning in. For this episode, we spoke with Oli Gardner, co-founder of Unbounce. Hey, Oli, welcome to Secrets for Scaling.
Thanks for having me on, Shannon.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. So to kick things off, for anyone who might not be familiar, can you tell us a bit about what Unbounce is, who your customers are, and what your business model is?
Yep. We're a SaaS model. It's a conversion platform that lets you create landing pages and hyper-targeted overlays without any need for developers. That's kind of the simple version. And then you can test them and all that kind of stuff and publish it without any need for tech help. And our primary customers are in-house marketing teams and agencies, basically people who need to get landing pages made quickly for campaigns and for placing overlays on their website to increase the performance of conversion opportunities and lead gen and all that kind of thing. And right now we're investing really heavily in machine learning and AI to kind of move towards a conversion automation platform.
Super interesting. What does that really look like?
That's the robots taking over. It brings that classic question up of like, oh no, are they going to replace us as marketers? Are they going to take over our jobs? Kind of like in the Industrial Revolution. The answer to that is no, really. It's just going to speed up our access to insights that can inform our hypothesis and how we can make things perform better. We have a predictive algorithm right now that can pretty much predict whether a page is going to be a high or poor performing landing page. It's pretty awesome. But yeah, it will speed up insights and make recommendations for how you can improve your marketing. And it will bring forward things that you just wouldn't have thought of because it's an algorithm. I can't wrap my head around it sometimes. It's like, well, don't we need to tell it some stuff about marketing? And our data science is like, no, it'll just figure it out and tell us what to do. So one of the really interesting things is that it'll also disprove a bunch of stuff that we always thought was true. So, there's certain best practices that people kind of begin with or rely on. We may actually disprove them. I cannot wait to get on stage and give a talk that's like 25 things you thought you knew about marketing that turns out are total bullshit.
Yeah, for sure.
That'll be a fun talk.
Do you have any examples, any sneak peek examples you've already found?
We just released our very first conversion benchmark report, it looked at 65,000 landing pages in 10 different verticals, 74 million interactions with those pages, and looked at several things. So what is the kind of the averages, the benchmark things in those industries, so you can compare yourself to see where you kind of sit. They're for lead gen landing pages only at this point. And then also it looks at the impact of word count, reading ease, sentiment and emotion. So there's some pretty interesting things in there that can help a marketer, a copywriter, a designer make some decisions ahead of time instead of starting from a blank slate. It might say that, for business consulting, the data shows that the pages in this sample who were closer to a word count of 400 were performing better. So that's not like do that and it'll guarantee success, but it's a signal that you can use to form hypothesis along with everything else you're doing that can change how you think a little bit. So things like that. And then, and things like sounding angry on a travel site or travel landing page is not a good thing.
Yeah.
So that's, which is hilarious because in my current talk, I was in Nashville recently. And we had a terrible travel experience. And I had this really hilarious story. I had everything going wrong. And I used this emotion analyzer. I think it's from IBM Watson or something, where you can talk to this thing and it converts it to text. And then it shows you graphs of the emotions, which I then took into don't use anger in travel with this chart. It's a perfect setup, but there's some fascinating stuff in there.
Switching gears a bit. So going back to Unbounce as a company, how big is it now in terms of both team size and traction?
We are about 180 employees and we're doing around 17 million annual recurring.
Okay. Wow.
USD, so that's like 70,000 million Canadian.
That's great. Yeah. So, and as Unbounce's co-founder, what does a typical day or week look like for you, if there is one?
Yeah, somewhere, I guess. I ran our marketing from day one. There were 6 co-founders, which is kind of strange, but also awesome at the same time. And then hired someone, take over that. Then I was creative director for a while, which is a role I've done in the past. But now I'm just, as co-founder, I'm just an individual contributor. So I spend about half my time on the road speaking at marketing conferences, and the rest of it just coming up with new methodologies or concepts around conversion and landing pages and overlays now that I can then bring on the road, teach people and get feedback, and then bring that back to our marketing team here.
And what would you say have been some of the biggest contributors to Unbounce's growth to date, whether it's decisions, strategies, or tactics?
There were a couple of things early on that really made a big difference. So first was we were the best at that. We were kind of pioneers, one of the early pioneers in content marketing back in 2009. So we created a lot of very bold content at the beginning. So I wrote 300 blog posts about landing pages, which is why it's great that we have an expanded product line now. So I don't have to talk about it so much. So I was growing our blog through that. But I also, I decided to do a really giant piece of content once. And I didn't want to put it on our blog because it was small at the time. We have core values here, and 2 of them are courage and generosity. So I made a gamble and I said, I'm going to put this on the Moz blog, because at that time, their community was huge and it was so engaged, and you could get on there without any editorial guideline, like interruption. You can go on the UMoz blog, and if it's great, it gets promoted to the Moz blog. And it was just massive awareness if you can succeed there. So I created this 6-month kind of self-referential story called The Noob Guide to Online Marketing, which was a giant infographic in 15,000 words, and it smashed all of their records. It held them for years. It's been beaten now, but so that really helped get our name out there from a brand awareness perspective. And then from a technical side, it was how we went about choosing which other platforms we would integrate Unbounce with. So the way we did this, which was kind of cool, we looked at every marketing tech, every MarTech platform that we could integrate with in some way that would make sense. And, so CRMs and email marketing software and, anything really that we could integrate with. And we put them all on stickies on a wall, and we looked at Alexa and compete.com, and we figured out whether the numbers are right doesn't matter, but the relative scale compared to Unbounce. Did they have 4x our traffic, or 10 or 20 or 400 or 0.5? So we then wrote those on the stickies. So this giant wall, integration potential wall, and we took the ones that had a high level of potential for growth for us, but then also we broke it down by which of these companies aligned with our value system and our perceived, our customer base. And that's how we decided who we were going to integrate with. And it was massively successful. We chose MailChimp to begin with, and they've continued to be our the number one used integration. I mean, we've grown as a platform and as a company, and so have our customers. So that's not necessarily our ideal customer anymore. It's people using Salesforce and Marketo, HubSpot, things like that. But it was a really good strategy to kind of figure out where to begin. So that's like the content and technical. But then really after that, it was just hiring amazing people. We hired Georgiana Lodi I hired here to replace me as the marketing director, Ryan Ingley, who's our VP of customer success, or maybe customer communication now. And they changed everything. They're just amazing people, and that kind of just is filtered through the company. Our customer success team are just phenomenal. They're lovely people. They're a massive reason why we're successful, why our customers love us. If you think about, or if you believe in and use NPS scores, our NPS score for customers who interact with our CS team is close to 90, which is unheard of. That's higher than Apple. So those were the smart decisions, hiring amazing people who really care. And then building a product that's kind of bulletproof. We focused on our tech a lot from day one to make sure it was, it wouldn't fall over.
How did you find the amazing people, and what part of your interview process or recruitment process made you confident that they were people who cared, that they were awesome? And also, how did you give them ownership? Because it sounds like they've had a huge impact on the culture. In what way did you give them the ownership to form that or to help form that?
Our hiring process is pretty unique. Well, not completely unique now because lots of people have copied us because it works really well. So
it's great.
If someone sends us a resume, or gives it to us, we will delete it or tear it up. We will not look at it once. Instead, you have to open a free account of Unbounce, build a landing page to tell us why you want to work for us and why we should hire you. And the benefit of that is that they then, well, it gets rid of all the people who don't really care who they work for, where they're just applying to every tech company. Only the people who really genuinely care and want the job will apply. It's a bit of a filter there. And then it means they have to get into the product. And that means they'll get onboarded by our CS team. So they start touching the brand and then they get a real sense for who we are. And so that whole process just brings just incredible people our way. So that's kind of the beginnings of how it happens. And then there's a bit of luck that you just find amazing people. I think it's about caring enough to put in a smart process and then really paying attention to, I don't know, making things slightly difficult for people,
Yeah,
so only the best come through.
I'd imagine that everyone has some element of creativity too, because it's how do you make your landing page stand out? Because I'm sure you get a lot of them.
There's some of them are phenomenal. We had one guy applying for a customer success position, and to get noticed, this is one of the things you hear about like on Reddit or something. He built a landing page saying why we should hire him. He wrote an ebook, 10 Reasons Why. So he made it a lead gen landing page to get this ebook, and he retargeted our director of marketing, one of our marketing managers, Corey, somehow on Facebook. So he saw this. He saw our logo on Facebook. He's like, we're not doing any paid advertising. What's this? Clicks on it, gets this landing page. Like, just amazing.
I've actually read that story before. Right. That's really funny.
we didn't hire him, but but A for effort.
Other than hiring amazing people, how have you defined and set meaningful goals for yourself and for your team? On
a team side, I've been an individual contributor for 3 years, so I don't have any direct reports. It's not really a focus of mine anymore. Other than, I like to position myself as a point of inspiration for the team, so they know there are exciting things happening outside the unbubble, which is kind of the term for our internal kind of sphere. Well, goals for myself, it was when I became a public speaker 2.5 years ago, my goal was just to be the best marketing public speaker there is. So that was my goal I set for myself, and I used the ratings at conferences to, speaker ratings to gauge how successful I'm being with that.
How have you improved your skills as a speaker over time?
A lot of practice, a lot of, like at the beginning, I just obsessed over it because I got guilted into it initially because I'd said no for so many years. And then I gave a 7-minute talk at my first gig, and I got an award for best presentation out of 65 speakers. So I was like, okay. I mean, I knew I'd be good at it, but I didn't want to do it. I was too scared. So I just really obsess over the craft. And Michael Agard, who's another amazing speaker, he works at Unbounce now. I did some coaching, worked with him quite a lot when we first started working together. And the change in him was dramatic, just by doing some coaching that way, which I really enjoy doing, to the point where now he's right up there as top-rated speaker. And now I have to remember what got me to that point so I can try and beat him. I love the challenge of that. And I also love the fact that we have 2 top-rated speakers in the same company, because I don't see that anywhere else. Usually there's just one person in a company that goes to do that. Yeah, that's kind of what keeps me motivated to keep being better.
Nice, yeah. Would you say that's something that founders or people high up in a company should be investing in for themselves and for the company? Is speaking at events, do you feel like the return is high for Unbounce? Or is it more of like a service that you're doing?
I think as a founder, the things you should be doing, yes, you should definitely learn how to be a speaker, not only for the exposure and what it can do for you from the marketing or the PR or the awareness side, but also just as a person. And as a marketer, you'll become so much better at communicating what you do, not necessarily because you're talking about your own products. I never do on stage. Just as a communicator, as a thought leader, all of that kind of stuff, you will be better at that for doing this because you're risking putting yourself out there. So you need to learn how to write and know a little bit of coding, just some basics. Those are the strengths of a modern marketer, a modern founder, I think. But for me, it's a little serendipitous. Attribution's hard for speaking. I do not track it back to people signing up for Unbounce. There's no point in doing that. I've learned that that's not the way to go about it. For me, the benefit are the relationships, with other speakers, with the event organizers and their brands. Because when they think of landing pages, they think of me or Unbounce. So that separates us from our competitors. And also, I've made lifelong friends at speakers. Wherever I travel, there are friends there. And it's theoretically can be quite a lonely pastime or profession. But when you're always meeting these amazing people, and also that's a great way of learning because you see the latest things that they're talking about. And I can bring that back as well.
It sounds like you're a little bit removed from this at this point, but what are some of the meaningful metrics you track as a business?
For the first few years, we focused on what we call NTS, new trial starts, the people that throw in a credit card and sign up for the software, with some cohort analysis in there. But that has to evolve. The goal was always to focus on lifetime value, which can be a really tough calculation to figure out. And I wasn't responsible for figuring that out, but we have. And then you can figure out at least this group of people are our ideal customer. They stick around longer, they pay us more money. Well, who are they? Then you can start, digging into their behavior. Which integrations do they have set up? Oh, okay. Our highest value customers use this integration. Now we can use that in our marketing to bring that to the front, to point out that we integrate with Salesforce, Marketo, HubSpot, Infusionsoft, whatever it is, MailChimp, Aweber. We can choose the one that we know our ideal customers are using and highlight that in our marketing and our advertising at the top of our landing pages and the website so that they come in and the decision makers who are putting down the credit card in the company, not necessarily the people who are going to use it, they get to see that and go, okay, this works with our marketing stack. This is beneficial to us. We'll go with them. So those are some of the things so it's more than just numbers. It's the who behind those numbers. Who are they and what do they need to be successful? And then it's marketing teams and agencies are who we go after. And then you have to look at churn as well, which ties into lifetime value. And it's all about designing for your ideal customer. And we've scraped some of the pages to look for, or probably not that, where he's looking in the database at the code of the pages to see who's using AdWords or who's, so we can start figuring out, the people who do this in their marketing are worth this much. Wow, okay. Then we go after them. So it's really analyzing the behavior of your customers to figure out who you should be attracting.
Sounds like you dig pretty deep. How have the metrics that you've tracked as a business changed over time, if they've changed?
More just the last few things I said there, that we understand more what we're looking for and how to find it. Mm-hmm. And that influences all of our marketing now. Whereas before we were, spreading quite a wide net with a general understanding and a way of measuring success, but not the right success. And some of that also then, it impacts your pricing. So 3 times we've taken off our lowest pricing plan. Every time we've done it, revenue's gone up. We get more of the customers we want who are going to be successful with our product. And obviously we've done that as we've grown the product and added new features and different value. It's just like the hiring thing with that friction, the landing page. Having your prices slightly higher brings in the professional markers that we want. I remember I was speaking at a gig in Boston, Marketing Profs, and I was hanging out with Hannah Baza she was at Uberflip. She's at Shopify now. We were hanging out. They had a booth there. And someone came over, she introduced them to me and oh, Oli, awesome. Yeah. Unbounce is really cool. We don't use it though, because it's too cheap. It's like, what? Because they were an enterprise type of company, and the perception from the people, the decision makers there, like in finance or whatever, they were like, oh, well, that must just be a toy if it only costs $100 a month, So right. Perception is an important thing too.
I love how enterprises love to spend money too.
Right.
It's always funny to me. How does Unbounce focus a team on those metrics and also ensure that the team's aligned around the greater vision for the company? Yeah,
again, it comes back to hiring the right leaders, which, is a tougher thing than just saying that. But, we have our core value system at Unbounce, and we've designed that in a way that if our employees, work within those, or at least pay attention to them, it keeps them in line with our vision. And, as to who we want to be as people more than anything. And we've had lots of people say that these values have changed how they live their lives. Having this kind of structure makes them make smarter decisions. That time when you're about to send an email either to another employee, one of your coworkers, or to a customer, and then you go, was that delightful? Like, no, it wasn't. Okay, I'm going to rewrite it. It's that little check. If the courage, if you want to make a bold move, because that's a core value, people feel more comfortable doing something that might be a bit more risky. So that really helps. And we send out an employee engagement survey twice a year, openly asking every employee what we're good at, what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong. We take the answers very seriously. Otherwise we wouldn't send it out twice. We do this every 6 months. And it's phenomenal because we get to see, wow, 82% think this is the greatest job they've ever had. Only X% think we're moving fast enough or innovating enough. So like, holy crap, okay, we've got to work on that. Or how many people think they're supported in their career progression? Not enough. All right, let's change our systems so that the next time this comes around, we see an upward trend. I think that's the way, we're very much a people first company. If you take care of your employees, they take care of your customers, which takes care of your business, which takes care of investors and shareholders. It's a big cycle there. As long as you focus on people first, then everything else will take care of itself. So that's kind of, some of our leadership kind of strategy as well.
Even when the robots take over.
Yeah, especially when.
Yeah.
But that's the thing as well. I mean, you think about an algorithm for conversion or anything. We could build our core values into that, right? So it could actually become more human than us in some ways, because it could use delight or some of these other things when it's suggesting copy for a headline. It could bring that in if it's one of the things that's part of the algorithm. So I think that's where the human side of machine learning and artificial intelligence will go. At least that's what I hope for.
For sure. It'll be interesting to watch, undoubtedly. Yeah, let's talk about marketing for a little bit. What are some of the biggest mistakes you see businesses making in marketing specifically as they begin to scale? Yeah,
scale's tough. I think authenticity can suffer, especially on social media and customer communications. My fiancée, Nicole, did a talk about this recently because in the company she works for, they have a very fast scaling kind of, like, their customers have lots of, customers. There's a big kind of not pyramid scheme, but just in terms of, the scaling numbers. So like focusing on those things, not losing that connection with your customers, because if you have it and then you lose it, you're letting people down. Then they're going to go to the competition because, then it feels like you're putting money before people, and that's not the right way to do it. One takes care of the other. We have an Unbounce experts community group that we engage with on a monthly basis or every 2 weeks. And they all get together and over video, like there's 9 people on this group video. They're people who own agencies or work for brands. And they just have these conversations, like what their concerns, needs, ideas, so we can help drive some of the direction based on our ideal customers and what they're actually, what they want and need. So it's not us in a silo going, well, we think we should do this. We're listening to our most valued customers. And everyone says, listen to your customers. Well, there are different levels of that, and we've really lifted our game on that to this kind of point where we talk to them all the time, and we pay attention to what they say, and we make change because of what they say.
So it sounds like the number one thing to do to avoid losing that authenticity is to listen to your customers and to communicate with them. Is there anything else you think founders can do to ensure that they don't lose that authenticity?
Yeah, ask for help and advice from others who've been through it. Have an advisory board or panel. Hire senior leadership sooner rather than later, and that people first organization kind of thing. But we had an advisory board right from, the first few months we started, I think, which the 5 people. So it was Rand, Eric Rees from Lean Startup, David Hauser, Chris Goward. But just being able to run some things by them, and not everybody will give you the same amount of time, but it's having those sounding boards from people who are X years ahead of you on the same kind of journey they can, they can help you avoid a lot of mistakes just by answering questions.
Definitely, which is a great segue to my next question. What has been your biggest personal challenge or challenges as a co-founder growing the business? And how have you or are you overcoming it?
The challenges definitely change over time. For the first few years, it was being completely broke and worrying if you would actually survive. But at the same time, that period was the most exciting because you're living so many unknowns every day. And that unknown is very exciting and scary. But, at the start for me, it was it was all about trying to be as dramatically awesome as possible so that people would pay attention to a little startup from Canada, trying to make ridiculous moves with the content. And for the longest time, I'd get all these emails saying, hey, do you want to meet up? You want to grab a drink? Blah, 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 some bar in San Francisco. And I'm like, what are you talking about? We're not in the Valley. We're in Vancouver. So we had to educate people. We had to educate Vancouver. We're here. Nobody knew. We're big in the community here. We have a big event space here. We have, I don't know what the number is, tens of thousands of people coming through here every year. We let people host their own events here, and we do monthly and then quarterly open houses. And the quarterly open house, which is a really big one, we'll have 500 people come by. Last time we had about 200 people apply for jobs, which was insane.
Yeah.
Because we used to struggle, especially hiring developers, because people didn't know we were here. But then Facebook and Twitter and other companies and Hootsuite, because they're here, we're growing massively. They're sucking up all the talent. But now that we're so well known in the community, it's much easier for us. It's interesting. We didn't establish our core values until about 4 years in, but when we look back at the way we behaved and worked, I think we actually represented them perfectly. And I guess it makes sense that we would then come to them later on. But I think, in terms of getting over personal challenges, I think it just comes down to being fearless. I don't know where I get it from, but it's the same thing that's almost got me gored by bison 3 times, or makes me who's afraid of heights, stand on the edge of a 3,000-foot sheer drop in strong winds just to get a photo. I have a very healthy fear of dying, or having my ass handed to me, whether it's by a person or a wild beast. But when I have a vision for something, whether it's a photo, a company, something I'm MacGyvering in my basement, which I love doing, I'm pretty indestructible in that kind of way.
Great. That's a good skill to have.
I love MacGyvering stuff. Just saying it out loud.
Yeah.
It gets me excited about, we just moved into a house and we have this basement that had these 2 big workbenches already set up. And I'm building a digital photography studio down there right now. And some old guy who's dead now, who's not creepy at all, he was there for 70 years. I don't know, a long time. So there's just stuff everywhere. There's bits of wood in different places. I'll be like, oh, I need to do something. And I just look around like, oh, okay, there's that. And I'll just make stuff. And it's really fun. Living your life through the eyes of an optimizer. I think if you can do that when you see physical problems in the real world, well, marketing's in the real world anyway, but and start thinking about how to optimize and how to make them better, optimizing your life, you become a better marketer and a better business person because of that. So that's kind of how I like to, live my life.
Yeah, solving the problem as efficiently as possible.
Mm-hmm. Or in a really stupid, messy way, but
yeah.
Even just going through the process is beneficial.
Definitely. So now that Unbounce is over 7 years old now, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to give any piece of advice to founders who are just beginning to scale their business, what would it be? When
you get to 75 people, do not think that hiring more people will speed you up. It won't. You might need them, but be very careful in that moment to scale your senior leadership team first. Otherwise, you could suffer through growing pains that should be exciting, not stressful. And it probably happens to everyone. Rand warned us when they were going through that, the 75 to 125 kind of region, and how it happened to them. So we were even aware, so we were prepared in terms of we knew it might happen, but we still struggled. I mean, we did find a new COO, which is great. He's done this scaling before. So that was a really smart move on our part, but there's still challenges with that. So that's a part you really need to be careful with. Reach out to 3 founders of similar businesses. Ask for help and pay really close attention to what they say.
What about that hump do you think makes it so challenging?
Just because if you're going fast, the amount of people that are coming in that you have to onboard, get up to speed, it takes away a lot of time from the people who are already trying to do work. And if you don't have enough in that middle layer of senior management across the board, it it's going to suck up your time, and that's not beneficial to the new people or to the old, the existing people. Because we have an amazing leadership team, but a lot of them, this is their first time doing that. So some of those experiences are being learned as we go. So it's important to try and find a mix of people who have gone through that phase before, because I imagine there was a lot of predictable stuff in there that they can help you prevent.
It's a great point. And I think a great place to wrap up at. Thank you so much for joining us today, Oli.
You are very welcome. That was a lot of fun.
Thank you for listening to Gecko Board's Secrets for Scaling podcast. If you know of someone who you think would be a great guest for Secrets for Scaling, or if you want to share your own scaling story, email me anytime at shannon@geckoboard.com. We'd love to have you. If you've been enjoying Secrets for Scaling, please consider giving us a review on iTunes. We'd appreciate it.